Hello everyone, I'm a much slimmed down version of Tom Sangster. We finally kicked him out, Magic Round got him, and we've got a much better panel for you this week. Round 11 is here, my team is an absolute shambles. To talk us through it and the best trades this week, I've got two former champs with me. Boys, Magic Round. Tim, I'll start with you because you were there.
Yeah.
What an experience. Talk us through your team, how it went, but also the experience up there.
Well, the experience of SuperCoach at Magic Round was intense for me. It was my best round for the year.
Really?
I scored high 1380. But off the field for SuperCoach, it was, I'd probably have to compare myself to Patrick Swayze. I had the time of my life. It was ridiculous. The vibe up there is so good. I'm going to go every year, and it should never leave Brisbane. And I'm a New South Wales boy, and I really encourage people to do it. It's so good.
Many beverages?
Many. But yeah, I backed up okay.
I've heard it's schoolies for dads.
It is, totally, yeah.
I love it. And if you haven't checked out Timmy's social media, check out some of the photos from last week. That kit was outstanding.
Yeah, full kit, socks, boots, mouth guard, tape around the head, jersey, shorts, the whole kit and caboodle, yep.
Love it.
Legend.
Joe, what about you? Your experience in Magic Round?
Home with the kids. We watched many games. The Bulldogs narrowly lost, which is a bit of a bummer. 2 years in a row we lose to Canberra, which is, stinks up a little bit, but no, good. Brought in Dylan Brown. It was Nathan Cleary, so a bit of much of a muchness. Took a punt that sort of backfired, but up and up.
Mitch Moses was a lot of people's trading, and that really didn't work out. We got that and plenty more issues to get through today, so make sure you send in your questions on YouTube and Facebook on the stream. We'll get to those in a little while. Firstly, your biggest issues, boys. Tim, we'll start with you.
Yeah.
What is your biggest issue facing you in round 11?
Oh, who I want to sell. There's probably plenty of people I'd love to buy and trying to, plan for the buy period, but I'm just really attached to so many of my players, and anyone that I'm prepared to sell don't have enough value. So I've got to make a big call this week. It's going to hurt, but I need to bring buy players in. I think it's probably going to be Zach Hosking, and don't like selling him.
Wow, as a Panthers fan as well. Tough.
Yeah.
Joe?
Massive. Yeah, for me, it's like Alamoti's got to go. I got Max Fiona as my trading. I'm not really wrapped about it. I'm a big Billy Smith fan. Can you trust him? Can you go too early on him? I'm all over Alex Johnson. That's my big trading. I think he's going to go on a tear. Timing's right. Day game against the Tigers at Acor. He loves it there. Latrell and Cody are humming. So, yeah.
Well, my biggest issue, boys, and I write the Cheapy Bible column every week, and I really dislike this player, but I couldn't ignore the break-even and the draw, and I should have trusted my gut. It is Tyrell Sloan, and he's burning a hole, not only in my pocket if I keep him this week, but my team in general. I didn't play him last week, thankfully. A lot of people did bring him in and play him. I cannot get him out of my team fast enough. I don't care about round 13 coverage. He needs to go. He's the perfect answer to go to Alex Johnston or a Lockie Miller, who I really like.
Yeah.
But I just don't love that trade. I had other priorities that I wanted to look after this week. Sloan was one that I brought in. I thought, okay, I can look after that later. But now I think I have to prioritise 120-ish break even. And if he gets another 10-point score or plays anywhere near as bad as what he did last week, he could be out of the team altogether.
Yeah, so I actually wrote in the beginning of the year an article I wrote about Tyrell Sloan and Hammer being sort of a low base. I didn't buy Hammer, and obviously he hit the 500k. I'm like, geez, what do I know?
Yep.
And then Tyrell Sloan sort of come good. I'm like, what do I know again? And then when the masses jumped on, two stinkers mid-teen scores. So I'm glad I didn't go there. A lot of people have,
You'll probably have a blinder this week now. Everyone sells him too.
And they're around 13. You only forego the loss if you sell him. So if it's not your biggest issue, you can hang on.
And one little tidbit for head-to-head players. We often talk in reference to overall, but check your league settings, because I know in a couple of my leagues there's no head-to-head matchups in round 13, 16 and 19. So all of these players we're talking about with buy coverage, you may not need to jump. You can prioritise getting in the Payne Haas, Cameron Munster of the world and not really worry about the Eels and the Knights and players like that. But I mentioned getting your questions. It's time now to pimp your team. Love that, boys. I'm sure we've got plenty of questions coming through. And don't forget, get in your zingers as well. Sledge us. Get into your players. Whatever it is, you can win that prize right there, Zinger of the Week.
Well, I'm going to start with a Zinger.
Perfect.
From Evan Burnett. NRL Supercoach brought to you by Ralph Lauren for men.
Yeah, that's
I just realised,
Oh, have a look at you two.
Little 20s.
Match in,
I've let the team down, as it turns out.
It's a bit awkward when two people wear a very similar shirt like that. I was talking about no.
On a serious note, Jonathan here, thoughts on AFB Harris Tapine, Tarpanay or Jack de Belin?
I think a lot of people are ignoring Tarpany because of the consistency or perceived lack of upside. But every other one of these buys, I think Horsburgh's probably in the same boat, given that he plays for the same team. He is reliable and goes up a gear during Origin.
Yeah.
A lot of other players, Tohu has a buy next week.
That's right.
So if you don't have three guns in your front row, you got to consider that.
Fanoa Blake, same sort of boat.
Exactly right.
Yeah.
So, and Payne Haas, I think if you don't own him already, I mean, it's worth a discussion. Should we sell him this week or next? He's undoubtedly in New South Wales Origin plans.
Yeah, I'd consider it. He sort of had a fall off at the back end of last year. From about round 14, he only had one score that was a ton, and the rest of them were all sort of 50 to 60s, which you can get from other guys that will provide coverage over the Origin period if you are an overall player.
Yeah. I think with Haas, it's probably Brisbane's form dependent. When they're up by 30, 40, he plays his first 45, 50 minutes and gets a spot, doesn't come back on.
Yeah, and they are killing it now.
Exactly. When it's a tight game, so tonight will be a tight game, you'd think he'd play upwards of 70 minutes. So.
There's a few guys like that. I think we often look at, where our team's playing the Dragons, the Tigers,
That's right.
the under-strength Bulldogs, but the best players, and I'll put Cameron Munster in that boat as well, who I'm actually going to buy this week. I think he's going to be one of my biggest trade-ins. Katoa up to Cameron Munster to run with Dylan Brown, Nico and Nathan Cleary in my halves. Couldn't care less about the buys. I just want the best scorers in those positions. But he often, much like Payne Haas, Cameron Murray is in this boat as well. The best teams, the biggest matches, they score their best. Doesn't really matter about the opposition.
Yeah. He's a big minute player, Cam Murray, most of the time. I mean, maybe around the Origin they'll find a bit of a time to spell him. The Bunnies and the Broncos are just going so well that they can afford to do it. But we look back, I think it was 2 rounds ago, Broncos played... No, it was the Bunnies played... I think it was the Broncos.
Yeah.
No, it might not be. But Payne Haas was out with a head... suspension, yeah. They were terrible without him.
That's right.
They need him
big
there.
time. Big time.
Yeah.
Any other questions there, just quickly?
I'm not getting any coming up on YouTube yet.
Okay.
Cool.
Joe here. Guys, would you drop the Latrell over the Origin period with all the buys coming hard?
No, I wouldn't. He's one guy. This is worth a discussion, okay?
Yeah.
Who are the priority holds? Because it'll be very tempting given how high some of these prices are. As soon as Origin comes along, a lot of people would sell Nico Hines, Latrell Mitchell and fix up other areas. I think you've got to factor in what's called opportunity cost.
Yeah.
Trade out this player, it's not just who you bring in, but it's the points you'll miss in those other weeks. I think Latrell is so much better than anyone else at the position that even missing Origin, he may well score as good as anyone else that you bring in.
Yep.
And we're running out of trades thick and fast.
It's a lot of money that you've got to bring back in. So if you sell Latrell or Nico, it's a lot of money. For me, I look at their role in Origin. Like someone like David Fafita might play bench role 20 minutes, so he'll definitely back up and rip in for his Titans teammates. He Grant the same. He might play 30, 40 minutes, alternate with Ben Hunt. Someone like Cleary that would be busted up, big fours around him all game, probably one you want to sell, but just depends on that. Latrell, I wouldn't know.
Yeah. I'm a hold Cleary. I just think that the price point, for me, it'll be hard to maybe get him back. If I sell him, I'll use some of that cash to fund other trades, and then it'll be a panic when he is playing. I'll go, how am I going to afford this now? So, yeah.
Well, boys, we've already started to touch on it on the back of that question, but let's talk about the burning issues. And we'll start with tonight's game. We've referenced a few of these players already. Cameron Munster is a trade-in for me. Boys, would you be selling or holding Grant and Munster over the Origin period?
Grant, I wouldn't. Back to that point about limited minutes during Origin. Munster, like I said, you've got to, I think 2 or 3 of the guns have to go. You can't just, hold on to all of them.
Grant also much better than anyone else at the position as well.
That's right.
We're going to disagree again. I kind of, which is good because we're just given the same sort of stuff. It's boring. I'm probably going to sell Harry Grant. Okay. I feel like I'll be able to get him back at the price point. There's other guys that are sort of impressing me at the moment. I think that Jeremy Marshall-King looks good. I love the way he scoots out a dummy half. He's got a bit of attack in him. Also, Robson, I think, could go okay. He's not as good as last year, but I don't mind it. Munster I don't own, so I haven't looked at it that closely. But I think if you could, if you're playing overall and you had both Brown and Cody Walker on your side, you're really going to make up some pretty nice numbers in that period if you've got a full 13 and those two guys.
Yeah, well, they're my 5'8" at the moment, so I'm pretty happy. But Munster 71 last week and didn't do anything.
Yeah.
Like
And a 90 the week before.
You know,
really.
like he's just, I mean, he's prime. Whereas Cody he needs 3 or 4 plays to get to 100.
So we're talking about this in context of overall a lot of us, but I see it as an opportunity. These 2 weeks leading up to Origin, people are selling, getting off these guns. It's a point-scoring opportunity for everyone else, particularly head-to-head players, to get wins in your head-to-head leagues.
That's right.
And in the gaps between Origins, a lot of these teams with the big guns have big backups. So they either 2 or 3 days playing on Sundays. So I think we can probably get away with it more this year than anywhere else. What about VC and C options from tonight's game? The Broncos, obviously, with Payne Haas, Reece Walsh as popular options, and then also the Storm guys.
Yeah, not for me. I think there's so many good matchups, juicy matchups. I mean, that Tigers-Rabbitohs game could be anything for the Rabbitohs. Play me, you've got a Cody Walker at Latrell, Alex Johnson, Campbell Graham, probably VC there, I'd say. Into Nico Hines, then we're going to go back up on Nico. The Masses sort of were, I think, 80% ownership, captaincy last week.
Yeah.
So, except for some smart people here.
Yeah, no, thank you.
Hey? That was massive.
Yeah, I only scored 20 more points out of Teddy, but yep, that's fine. I think this is a tough game. The Broncos are in great form. The Storm aren't in the best of form, but they've got a really bit of a hoodoo over the Broncos. They've smashed them quite a fair few times in recent history. If I had Munster, I'd look at him as a VC. I don't think Walsh has got enough upside to loop. He seems to have been capped at around 100, even when he's going absolutely off. And for a loop, you probably want at least 140, 150.
Yeah, particularly with guys like Latrell and Nico still to go in the round. You'd have to be getting 150, I reckon. All right, we are a short and sharp podcast today, so we're going to move on to Friday night footy. And this one, let's start with the Bulldogs and the Warriors. Jacob Carraz, a guy who I owned from the get-go this year and was loving life. Oh, geez, I was heartbroken when he went down. I thought, okay, that spot is locked in for rest of season. He is now dropping, because of that injury-affected score, to a beautiful price, and he will be straight back into my team in round 14. What about you guys?
Yeah, can't wait. I mean, you saw with that try there, that was his only attacking start of the game, and he scored 37. I mean, he was basing 50, 55 at the start of the year. In open space, was really lagging, he was really limbering along, so hopefully a few more price drops. I think I said it last week, and then, bring him in after the 13 bye.
Tim, trades for this game, a lot of people selling Jacob Preston. If you own him, would you be selling? And then I guess the other guys to look out for are probably Tohu and AFB.
Yes, I've got opinions on all 3 of those. Preston, I just love him. He's got a lot of attack in him. He was great last week. He's one of the guys that I could sell, but I'd prefer to sell probably Hosking over him, I think.
Jackson Ford, the other one to go with.
Jackson Ford, he's got the HIA, he's also
into
a buy. So if you can hold on to him for buy coverage, he's been looking really good. I don't mind that. But if you're desperate to find someone in your side that you can sell, maybe he's the guy. Tohu for me, Tohu. I was going to grab him. I was going to grab him this week. I made that trade immediately, but I've reversed it. I just had memories back to the last few years. He seems to get injured, and then we've all got him in our side for the buys, and then we have to move him out. So I'm going to wait till round 13, and he's one that I'm going to pick up, definitely, if he's available.
Nice one. Let's move on to the Panthers and the Roosters. Nathan Cleary came back with a vengeance last week, didn't he? His goal kicking was back. He'd obviously ceded those duties to Crichton in the previous weeks to look after his body. He looked back to his best. In the lead up to Origin, I think we're going to see 2 massive games from him. Particularly against the Roosters this week, but in the lead up to, I guess, his most important mid-season context being Origin. Yeah,
as you touched on, these big players love the big opponents. So Roosters, he's got a hard game next week, I think, from memory, which is why I sort of got for him last week. I was a bit shattered when he took that first goal kick. I'm like, oh, jeez, I thought, there's a 20 or 24 in base just from goal kicks. So
Well, talking about shattered, Joe, he has lost the mullet. He's got a clean fade now, so I don't know how that's going to affect his game, but he looked good at training, but bit off him for captaincy for that reason this round.
He's still got the chin and the attitude the point scoring upside, so I think you can absolutely still go on him. Speaking of other players in this game, Joey Manu, DPP updates coming after this round. We saw yesterday in an article from Tommy Sangster, this man, he's not only a superstar of the game, but he's going to be a must-have either in your centres or he's about to add 5'8" eligibility, that is massive.
Yeah, he's just a weapon, isn't he? In SuperCoach and actual NRL. I mean, I think it's such a waste being at centre at a club. I wish someone would pick him up, put him fullback full time. He would just.
Hey, I don't wish that at all.
Mate.
Roosters can keep him.
Come
thank
on, boy,
you.
let's get him over. No, I just think he's. I think Teddy's suffering with Joey Manu. Everyone outside Tedesco's suffering because he doesn't. Let's be honest, he doesn't want to pass the ball.
Yeah.
I think it's not his natural game to give the ball away, so he just backs himself, offloads, tackle busts, hit ups for fun.
I reckon he's going to go back to centre soon. I reckon they're going to bring Sammy Walker back into the side. So he has less touches there. He's still a very nice price. He's always a great SuperCoach option. But
so is he a buy still?
Well, it depends. If you're an overall player, then maybe not yet. Like I'd probably maybe wait till round 14 because then the Roosters have a nice run of games. I think there's about 5 or 6 straight.
Cover round 16.
Yeah. So, but maybe not just now. You probably want to try to target people that play round 13.
People would be worried. And a lot of questions about Sam Walker being a lady, which I think for the balance of their side is going to happen sooner or later. The good thing is Teddy goes to Origin soon. He'll go back to fullback and, rest is history with Joey Manu.
Yeah, absolutely. The other one to watch out for, you mentioned earlier, Joe, Billy Smith. Scored 70-plus last week with no real attacking stats of note. And he was back to what I see as his best footy. Yeah. Aggressive, wanting the ball in his hands and taking on the line. So he's one to watch out for next week. All right, time now to get into the rest of our late mail. All right, boys, Josh Schuster. He's broken many a heart this year in SuperCoach. I thought to myself a few times writing the Cheapy Bible to just write a flat-out, just forget about this guy until we see 4 games in a row and just pay the elevated price. We can't do it. We're all degenerates, just like each other. We can't help but understand the upside. He's been out of the team a couple of weeks. There's a bit of mail that he might come in this week, but we believe unlikely at this stage. What are you doing?
We've been training the house down with Mark Carroll's been sort of leading the way and showing him how to get fit over the last couple of days, I think. So hopefully he is training the house down and we can get him back soon enough. I think Manly are a better side when he's playing good footy. It's just a matter of fitness.
Yeah, well, you started with Schuster, didn't you?
I tried to save the trade, and it's been a working issue in my side.
So I thought I was smart. I bought him in before the Tigers matchup, and I paid him for the Tigers matchup. I thought, they're going to put a number on them, and obviously that backfired. So his dual position's handy. I think Manly, for my side, he helps Garrick so much. He just creates so much more room for Turbo and Garrick down that left-hand swing. Yeah. So
opens the field up, runs real straight.
So Garrick's a real asset for me. So hopefully Schuster comes back and can just.
And overall players, I think that game, I brought him in that week as well, and Captain Turbo, and that was one of the worst games for footy to watch.
Yep.
But I think if you're an overall player, you have to hold. The prospect, the fact that he's a chance this week to play means to me, if he's still in the good graces of Seabold, like he's saying publicly, round 13's an almost lock for really good coverage and some really good point scoring upside.
Definitely.
Boys, bit of a flu scare at the Broncos, but we believe they are going to shape up as 1-17. So as far as late mail goes, after Magic Round, we are pretty unscathed, and most of the injury news came out early in the week. We're looking pretty good at this stage. So, time to get on now to our guilty pleasure. Start with you, Tim.
Yeah.
Guilty pleasure?
Guilty pleasure. Scotty Drinkwater. He's probably someone I'm going to bring into my side over the next couple of weeks. Can't afford Gutho, and I do want a premium one. Teddy's probably going to have to move on for me just up until round 13. The only reason I won't do that is if he lets me, doesn't pass a lot of the eye test or look very good over the next couple of weeks. But yeah, I love him. I think he's exciting.
For those that don't know Timmy, he's the kind of guy that messaged me during the week and say, "Oh look, Drinkwater. I got to buy Scott Drinkwater." Like he just looks for the stars, our line, and
I was messaging you last year. There was a song that had Drinkwater or something in it, and I thought that was a sign from the universe.
You're a lunatic.
Yeah,
anyway,
matters of cat snake.
For me, we've touched on him before. Billy Smith. He's a guy I've written before in the past. He's a guy that I just have so much raps on him. Obviously, the club think highly of him. I think I've bought him maybe 4 times in the last 4 years. I've started the year with him. I just think he looks good as well. You don't mind. Flowing hair, yeah. Just so much for the club to stick by him for so long. It's a matter of time. When Samuel comes in, Kerry comes in, they're swinging planes off Tedesco. I fear going early with his injury history, but from an NRL perspective, I just really hope he can finish the season off and realise his potential. So he's my guilty pleasure.
I like it. Well, mine, I had a difficult time deciding on this one. Firstly, my guilty pleasure is going to be Valence Tafare next week. Let me just say, I am as excited as anyone here, anyone in the world about this guy. I think he could be unbelievable. A mesh between CSE for Talakai and Conrad Hurrell. He let through Talakai in some pretty bad defensive stuff last week. And I worry that Wayne Bennett is the traditionalist. He may well just say, OK, Brenko's back. Let's get him in. You and Aiken may well be out for a little while, which might add an opportunity. But I want to impress upon you, do not bring him in this week.
Mate, reading the article, that enthusiasm was radiating through the computer
I'm so
screen.
excited. And I'm the one that's telling you, don't do it this week. Yeah. So, look, my guilty pleasure, I'll hold that one off for a week. I really want to buy one of the Sharks' back five, and it's Ronaldo or Will Kennedy. I just absolutely love. And if I was going to sell Latrell Mitchell, I would really look closely, forget about round 13, at Will Kennedy or Dylan Edwards. Two guys that I think are just absolutely breaking the bank this year and have points galore in them.
Yeah, I think Ronaldo's been the most consistent and probably dangerous on that left side. He just finished, and Talakai loves just like the hands of a surgeon. He always gives that little late pass, and Ronaldo has bombed 2 tries as well in that fact. I've looked at the backs as well. They share the role. I mean, Jess Raymond might turn up one week, Katoa might turn up the next week. Like I said, Ronaldo's probably the most consistent, but Will Kennedy, mate, he gets those 3-on-2s and 2-on-1s better than anyone else.
So good. Bathurst boy, what a legend. Okay, let's move on now to Cheapy of the Week. I just mentioned the headline act, Valence Tafare, and it is a big no from us this week. I imagine that. I'm speaking for both of
Definitely,
you.
yeah.
I'd wait till 13 even. I wouldn't go next week. I'd just make sure that he's going to play that game as well. If he has a shocker next week and then he's out of the side, you're kind of stuck with him for a bit. And he's hard to move on. So yeah, he could be a perfect cheapie if he gets named for round 13 to help us downgrade.
Totally agree. Let's scoot through these pretty quickly. You're in on a young dragon this week, Joe.
I think he's the best pick at the moment. Zach Lomax, talk of a new coach. There's a lot of variables. The only options, like I say, Tafare, and you're going to go to Billy Smith. So they're the other two. I don't want to go early. Billy Smith's history. I can bring Billy Smith next week. Yeah, I'll lean that way.
I just worry that the Dragons are an absolute shambles.
Yeah.
And their backline last week, I don't know how Sloan is still in the team. After what I saw last week, that was an absolute shambles. And that whole back line, at the drop of a hat, could be... If Zach Lomax is getting dropped and citing goal kicking, who knows what's going to happen. Right. So I just worry... I love the talent. I think he could absolutely be unreal. And it's the high-risk purchase that I normally don't make that ends up paying off.
But when you're desperate.
Yeah,
if he takes the field, he's going to make a little bit of money. I don't love the trade just because of the job security issues, but because he is going to make a little bit of money, if he does lose his spot, you could probably still deal with that.
Boys, I think the priority trading this week, if he didn't go last week, is Buller from the Tigers. He's got a tough matchup this week, so probably don't play him in his 17. But I could not be more impressed with a young player than what I've been in a struggling team. Under the pump, he's come up under the bombs, under the high ball against the Panthers in the pouring rain 2 weeks ago, and then a try saver in the last ditch.
Cleary, that was crazy.
Ravalawa.
Oh, yeah, on Ravalawa.
On the game before.
Magic round.
Yep.
Just incredible the impact he's having in real-life footy, but also for SuperCoach. 2 scores in a row of 60. If he missed the boat last week, he's still only 280k. I think he's a must-have.
Balance of your side dependent. If you've got 2 gun fullbacks, then you can't go there. But otherwise, mate, so much to like about him.
Yeah, he's just not for me because if he was... no, only because I'd want 2 gun fullbacks if I could have in that position. I just think he looks great, and he's going to make some great money. It does free up a lot of stuff, but I just feel like it's a little awkward. I don't like him in that position for fullback. If we had him in the centre wingers, I'd be buying him straight away.
Yeah, what a shame. Anyway, all right, time to move on to our Copes captains. Not a huge fan of throwing to my own sting there, but anyway, let's get on to the most popular captains. New feature on SuperCoach Plus. You can get in there and see the top 100, the top 1,000. You can itemise it on where you're sitting rank-wise and pick out who most people are captaining in that range. At this stage, Nico Hines, 78%. I think there might be a few people off him when it comes to kickoff after last week. The first time, he is human. But, boys, are we on this week?
Yeah, Manly haven't shown much. I'm all over it.
Yeah, I'm 100% going to captain him. I can't see him going anywhere else this week.
Well, the only other player that I would be going on is Latrell Mitchell, who has been exceptional, and he plays up against the Tigers at Accor Stadium, where he has scored through the roof this year.
Yeah.
I'm tempted just to be a little bit of a point of difference.
Well, if I had Latrell, I'd definitely consider it, but I don't. So for me, the other options don't look as appealing in my side compared to Nico.
My other options will be Gutherson or Dylan Brown, as a Parramatta good matchup, I think so.
Perfect. I think you can't go too wrong there. And Cleary, if you don't know Nico Hines, Nathan Cleary, a fantastic option as well.
That's
All right, we've got a couple of minutes, boys. Let's hone into some questions to help you out just before we kick off for the round.
I'll go back to a zinger.
Yes.
Joe SH. This podcast is his guilty pleasure without Tom Sangster.
Wow, Sanger.
Got a love for Tommy, eh?
I tell him this all the time. I ring him every week and say, mate, get me back on. You are useless.
There you go.
No, I do not.
Steve from Wodonga wants to know a question for Copes. He said, you've worked with Bruce McAvaney and also Ricky Ponting. How's it feel working with two A-listers?
Yeah, it's a real step up, and I'm privileged to be in this position. I often have to pinch myself with Tim and Joe. They're real professionals.
Yeah, yes,
cover it off with the
resume.
lawyers.
Yeah.
Yep. Okay. One
Other question
trade question each, and then we're out.
Yeah, Mitt, would you trade in Murray to Olangi? I think you started the year.
Yeah, I started with him. I like him.
Yeah.
I thought he was a nice pod. Yeah, I did.
Love it.
And then he sort of was like not doing massively, but still scoring okay. And then once he got injured, he came back and started doing pretty well. If the Cowboys were playing the sort of footy they were playing last year, he would have seen a lot of tries at the start of the season. They had a really nice draw. It just didn't work out, but I think he's a nice pod for sure.
Yeah, the Cowboys' schedule for non-origin players is actually fantastic. I think they missed round 15. They play the rest to round 19 from memory. So you get a good, Reece Robson, for example, yeah.
Okay, one question from me just to close out the show. You two, in a quick sense, your trades this week, what are they at present?
Yeah, probably just Alex Johnson. I can't get my head around another one, so I'm going to probably use 5 in the next 2 weeks.
Yeah, for me, it's a downgrade, so Alamotti and Warbrick to go. For Alex Johnson, probably Fiona.
Okay, and who's going out for AJ?
Probably Hosking.
Okay.
Yeah.
It's still up in the air.
Yeah, it is. It's tough.
For me, it's potentially Alex Johnson or Lockie Miller in for Tyrell Sloan. And the other one, as I mentioned, Katoa, who's been unreal the last couple of weeks. He goes out for a bit of a pod move up to Cameron Munster. Boys, thank you so much.
Thank you.
As I mentioned just before, it's been a privilege. I need to pinch myself working with these two. But round 11 is almost here. Don't forget, make your trades. Ask us your questions on the stream. We'll try and help you out. But thanks for joining us on the Game Day podcast.